The last couple of years was emotional to say the least. Not only because of what I enjoyed to catch the carp I wanted to catch, but because of life's walls in general. Catching COVID just before Christmas, slipping and breaking a rib while at the lake, and then finding out my younger brother had cancer just blew my mind. And at times I wanted to throw the whole lot in. I'll be honest, my mental state wasn't great, but I dug deep, soldiered on, and soon enough everything clicked into place. So I hope you kind of get the idea by what you're about to watch.
This is just biblical. Can't recall rain being this consistent for this long, this heavy. Unbelievable. Mental.
Every now and again there were some breaks in the rain, which was very, very welcome. And when there was, the carp turned up. First of the year, and well over £30, so I'm really pleased with this one. And as you can see, it's an absolute pristine common. Put up a proper fight, like they always do. But, I'm going to get it back. I've waited and had some photos, so yeah, really pleased just to get off the mark. New season. Second bite of the season. It's been slow so far. Like I say, I've had loads of tench, but finally got myself into a carp. Calm down a little bit now, so I'll show you the other side. Absolute powerhouse, massive shoulders, cracking. Slip it back. So one of the rigs that I've been using is this with a Silk Flex braid, which is really supple, really heavy, sinks really well, very thin, especially as it gets to winter, starts to get cold. And this is less obtrusive than standard hook links. So what you do is start off by tying a fairly large loop, not too big, but a little bit bigger than normal. Get your bait needle, pull the loop through. I'll show you why you want it a bit bigger in a minute. So you want it a little bit bigger than normal. About 1/2 inch, something like that. So that's cell bottom bait. What I'll do is I'm going to trim it down with a nice sharp blade so that you get a nice flat edge. Being careful with your fingers, obviously, so that's nice and flat. A small cell pop up. Do the same with that. It's nice and flat, and then them two should marry together nicely like that. And the reason you use the blade is so you can get those nice and tight together no water can penetrate. Well, it slows the water penetration down in between that gap. So that'll be like that, nice and tight. When you push a needle through the baits, always try to make sure that it's fairly central. It hasn't got to be spot on, but fairly central through the bait. You don't want it all twisted down the rig. You want it nice and even. So pull the loop through the hook baits until the loop's just proud. Don't pull it right through. Then make sure you've got enough gap there to pull the needle out without catching it. Hair stop in, and you want to pull it down now until the knot is inside that bait. So now it's locked in. It's really hard to pull that apart. I don't want to pull it apart, it's really hard to pull it apart. So that now is now one solid bait. So when they suck that up, it will go in their mouths as one solid bait. Take a little bit of silicone tubing, 1.5mm one, snip off about 4mm, and carefully slide it onto a gate latch needle without splitting it. You don't want any splits in it. You want it nice and tidy, nice and neat. And all we do, pass it onto the braid itself and push the tubing up over the braid, slide it right down towards the hook bait. Then carefully put the point through the tubing, and always do it so that the hook point is facing the bait. Yeah, don't do it that way because it'll end up the wrong way on the hook link. Always facing that way and it will curve round. So that goes round, and you kind of want it so that the braid exits more or less opposite the microbarb. So it's opposite it like that. Pull the hair down. So you want around about 10mm gap in between the two, between the hook and the hook bait. And then tie your knotless knot as normal. So I go down the shank 8 times. And then I go back up the shank until it's covered. About 4 times, and then back through the eye. And in that way, when you actually hook a carp and it pulls against the hook itself, the actual knot is less prone to slippage. That's why you always go back over it. And then we're going to put a bit of tubing on, shrink it down. So I normally have a bit of tubing, about 15mm. And that allows enough to slide over the knot. And then I'm going to shrink that down. That's going to be a nice kicker there. And then that'll be it, job done. So that's more or less the finished rig. You can see you've got a nice bit kicker on there. Really aggressive. So when they suck that in, and blow it out, it's much more prone to catch their lip. And then what I'll do is from there is I stick on a large sinker onto there. Slide up a large sinker with a little bit of putty moulded around that as well, so it's a bit of extra weight, and that just helps really to pull that hook home and drops into the bottom lip nicely. So then what I'll do is get my sinker and get a bit of putty, and I always see people do this wrong. When you get the putty, flatten it out so it's really thin, so it's like a bit of paper, and then wrap it around your sinker, or anything for that matter. When you do it, just make sure it's nice and flat like a bit of paper. Wrap it around it and then just mould it around it. Nice. Do. And as you can see, that weight's going to drop down every time now. When they pick that up, it drops into the bottom lip. If you watch the point of that hook, it kind of just pulls it home a little tiny bit. It's only a little bit, but it makes a massive, massive difference. And there you have it, the rig that caught me so many fish.
Absolutely tin down.
literally just about to wind the rods in, and it rattled off. I don't know if I've put up a fight. I mean, they're only small, but there's quite a few of these in here. Not too many, they don't plague you, but the future's bright down there, that's for sure. I love filming things like this. I notice it a lot when I'm fishing. I always keep my eyes open. It's not just about the carp angling, but it's definitely about a lot of the stuff that's around you. And this little guy looks like he's lost one of his back legs, but he's still soldiering on. And it was quite funny because I got the camera out, and as soon as I got the camera out, it was almost like he knew he was on film. So as you've probably seen, mirrors are quite a rarity in here. A lot of the fish I've been catching are commons. Just had this lovely mirror. It's a bit flicky, but 29.11. Absolute brute of a fish. Beast of a carp. So I'm really pleased with this one. So 29.11, not many mirrors in here, so really pleased to have this. Lots of commons, and this has sort of kicked off my autumn kind of campaign perfectly. So I've had it out for a little while, so I'll take a few pictures, but we'll try and get it back ASAP. So I won't bother spinning it around. It's just as beautiful on the other side. Beast. So it's the 16th of September 23, and I'm sitting in a really lovely swim at Ashmead down in Somerset, and as you can see, it's pouring down with rain, and it was just a really nice sunny dry set up yesterday. Carp weather's come in, which is great, and I've got one rod, as you can see there, just fishing a little hole, probably 10 or 12 feet out in around about 3 foot of water. There's been fish coming in and out, and I'm literally just waiting for a bite basically. I've got another rod just slightly further down the bank to me, and yeah, with any luck, we'll have one of these lovely historic type fish. Despite my gallant efforts, the rain had other ideas and really did put a mocker on things, but I was fortunate enough to have this lovely old mirror. Beautiful fish. So it was well worth going there just for that. So we got here this morning at around about 7 o'clock. Been invited down to a lovely little pool, up in Doncaster. Fishing alongside my good mate Julian Cundiff up the swim here. He's got a couple of swims up from me. And yeah, it's got some nice fish in here, up to sort of around about £30, I think. Some nice commons and some nice mirrors, and they're really nice, sort of like dark coloured fish. Like I say, nothing massive, but some really, really nice looking fish. I've had a couple already. Biggest probably about £17, I suppose, £16. But that was a lovely dark common as well. Julian, like I say, is a couple of swims up from me, but I've got all 3 rods out. I've got one, as you can see, that weed there. I've got one in the hole. There's like a little hole right in the centre of the shot, which is about 20 yards, I suppose, something like that. Not very far out. There's a little clear spot right in the middle of it, but you've got to be really accurate with it. You've got to be right on that, on the spot I found. There's like a little bit of gravel. It doesn't feel much bigger than, I don't know, a few dinner plates sort of thing in a line. But if you're on it, you get a bite. So I've had a few fish off that. And then just to my right, you can see that bank of reeds over there on the right hand side there, in the middle of the shot again. Just to the right hand side, I'm right on the edge of them reeds, really nice and hard and clear. That's about 25 yards from here. Load of boilie over the top of both of them. They love baiting here. They're complete bait fish from what I've been told. And I've got another one which is left of shot here, which you can't see, just sort of round the corner from where I am. But again, that's on a silty sort of spot. Presentation wise, I'm using the uni clips, the Ridge Monkey uni clips, because they drop the lead every time. You really want to be dropping the lead in somewhere like here. It's so weedy, you'd have no chance getting them in if you kept the lead on. So always try and drop the lead. Don't get me wrong, I hate dropping the lead. I hate losing leads, dropping leads when it's unnecessary. Just don't do it. I don't do it when it's unnecessary, but when it's necessary like now, it has to be done. But when it's really weedy, you just got to do it. So I've been dropping the leads, and I'm fishing with a couple of sort of critical hook baits. I've got a bottom bait, cell bottom bait basically, and a little homemade pop up which I've chopped in half, married together. I've showed you it before, like a little critically sort of balanced hook bait, and I'm just fishing them on a couple of multi-rigs basically, which I've been using recently. I don't normally use the multi-rig, but just of late it just felt like a bit of a change and seems to be doing me well, so I'm sticking with that for a little while. But yeah, but anyway, it'd be nice if I can show you something big but it doesn't really matter, does it? It's not all about that. I'll show you next fish I have. I'll put it up so you can see what I've had. It's just gone midnight and I've had this lovely little fully scaled of around about 15-16 pound. Really nice. Proper right battle in the weeds as well. Really, really weedy. So dropping the leads every time, and yeah, really pleased. Just sticking back. Up to a lovely little pool with my really good mate of mine, Mr. Cundiff, as you can see next to me here. And yeah, we've done 24 hours. I think we've had about 13 fish between us.
13 fish,
something
yeah,
like that.
13 fish, yeah.
But it's been a strange one because they've all been relatively small.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can go to places and that just happens. All the small ones just feed, and that's exactly what's been happening. But we've had loads of action between us. We've had a fantastic time.
Yeah, when you say small, small is relative, isn't it? It's like they're up to about 17, 18 pounds.
Yeah,
which
17, 18 pounds.
On here is
unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Usually 1 in 3, 1 in 4 is a 20, but I think when conditions change, sometimes you'll get either the big ones turn on to feed, or in this case, a lot of these are the originals. The older stock are feeding the smaller fish, so it's one of those things. It's the autumn change, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And they've all been the older ones, haven't they?
Yeah, they've all been the older ones. But if you look out there now, it's that you can see it's a horrible expression to use, but lifeless. It's everything still.
Yeah.
Storm Agnes has passed through, and though the fish are feeding, I've not seen lots of signs of fish jumping, rolling, crashing.
No.
It's almost as though there's definitely change. The autumnal change is definitely coming.
You can tell when that happens, can't you? Because the weather,
absolutely,
the weather has a big part to play in it, doesn't
absolutely,
it?
Yeah.
And even though the weather's been absolutely bang on, isn't it? After 24 hours, overcast, we had a low pressure spell come through, didn't we?
absolutely. Yeah, it was down to about 1001, but it's going to be up to about 1012 by the end of the day. So there's definitely, those carp know that well before we do.
Oh, God,
Before we do.
Without
they
doubt,
don't need barometric pressure indicators.
No, which is what keeps us going, isn't it? It keeps us coming back for more, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to work out what's going on is all part of it. But yeah, it's been a great 24 hours.
Yeah, as ever, we've totally fished different. So I fish
Yeah.
the same bait, the same rigs, the same setups, and just do it to death, whereas Joe fishes completely different to me, and will change baits and rigs in the session. So he might, I'll use a bog standard bottom bait, a small bag of boilies or pellet or whatever, and catch 6 or 7. Joe will do completely different with bright ones, hinge stiff rigs, everything, and catch you 6 or 7 as well.
Yeah. It's horses for courses, isn't it? And people have every angler has their own way of doing it, don't they?
Yeah.
And you can ask someone until you're blue in the face about what works on certain venues, but a lot of the time, if you just stick to what you know.
It's what you're confident, isn't it?
And what you're confident in, you normally catch, don't you?
Yeah, I couldn't use your stuff no more than you could use mine.
Yeah, no.
No more than I could use Terry Earns or Darryl Peck
it's
stuff,
really,
because I don't have confidence in what they do.
No.
But I know with what I'm using that as long as I get on the fish and
works.
get the fish feeding or wanting to pick the bait up, they will hook themselves.
Yeah.
So you can give a complex explanation about hiding the hook, etc., which will be very valid, and I can give an equally valid opinion about why you shouldn't need to do that, why you don't need to do that, and yet we both catch the same amount of fish. So it's it's an argument, isn't it? It's like you have a standpoint and you argue. Well, no, you discuss that standpoint. Neither of us is right, neither is wrong.
No, it's swings and roundabouts, isn't it, I guess?
Absolutely, different baits, different rigs.
And it's funny how I can look at your rig and your hook, the way it all lays, and I look and think, it's just not what I would do. Do you know what I mean? And your confidence is from there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you look at what I do and think,
that's not what I do.
That's not what I do. Do you know what I mean? It's completely different.
It's just completely different things, but those are starting points. But if I'm sat here and you'd had 4 or 5 on bright ones or whatever, and I'd had none,
then you'd
because I'm more of an experienced angler now, I would change straight away. No doubt about it.
Yeah, totally.
But if you don't have a starting point, you end up all over the place. So you've got to have a thing that you've got to have a starting point for waters you fish, and then you take note of what other people are doing. Similar hours, are they on fish, etc. Then you start to tweak it. But if you simply flip-flop all over the place, you'll never know which part works and didn't work.
Yeah, no, totally, Yeah, I always say that to people. If I'm doing well on a particular lake, or I'm consistent on somewhere, and someone says to me, "How are you catching? No, where are you catching so many fish?" I can only tell them so much, but I'll always say to find out your own method. Find out what catches for yourself, and if that works, then stick with it. Because what I'm doing might not necessarily work for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not always the same, is it?
Oh yeah, I'm using the same stuff I've used for years.
But that's why we do totally different things, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody's out fishing me, there will be days I'm not on fish. There will be days where you bump fish off. Same as there are days where you go in the net and the hook falls out every time, but it only falls out in the net, not at the net. But in the grand scheme of things, what I'm doing works on all waters. I'll tweak it, so I might use a sharpened hook instead of a packet. I might use a 2.5 or 3 ounce lead instead of a 2. I might use a double bottom bait instead of a. But the starting point is pretty similar, and then you just vary it. So whereas you'll vary stuff in session, and I tend not to do.
Yeah. So it's great though. It's good that it's that we are so different, and that's what makes anglers so different. Everyone's got their own way of doing it. Otherwise, it'd all be the same, wouldn't it? And everything would be easy.
Yeah. I mean, if you're honest, if you look at Formula One and you said to everybody, and there was no commercial ties, everybody would want to be in Max Verstappen's Red Bull. Whether they'd like to admit it or not. Whereas in fishing, you look at Darryl Peck's setup, Jim Shelley's, Dave Lane's, mine, Terry Hearn's, etc. They're all different. Now, if they're all different, what does it tell you? There can't be an ultimate bait, ultimate rig, ultimate tactic, ultimate presentation. So when anybody ever says that on film, I think, no. What you're saying is that this day or this week or this month or this year on this water, I've got confidence in that. It doesn't mean that it's the ultimate setup. It just means that it's worked for you. And often underwater cameras have shown what people have said is the best setup, never misses a pickup, is absolutely hopeless.
And they're getting done all the time on them,
Getting done all the time. So there is no ultimate bait, ultimate rig, ultimate tactic, ultimate presentation. They're just starting points.
I mean, on that sort of topic, we're getting done all the time, aren't we? We're getting done all the time. Whether you like to think that or not, we are getting picked up and put down all the time. But you know, a rig that works for you constantly, or consistently, should I say, more consistently than constantly, because that's completely two different things. But consistently, is what keeps you.
If I get a bleep, or if I get a bleep on a sharpened hook, I will always recast within 30 seconds to 1 minute. You know, I'll take into account, could it be a liner, etc. So if I'm fishing the margins with a slack line, I'm getting the line lifting up, then obviously it's probably a liner. But if I'm fishing out, you know, towards the reeds or somewhere, and I get a single bleep and a bit of a swirl over the rock, and nothing happens, I will recast.
You know something ain't right.
It's been. You do get done, and I don't think they do you on purpose.
No.
It's like floater fishing. You watch the fish on the surface. I don't think they're doing you on purpose.
No.
They just go for that floater. They miss it, or they knock it out of the way. Same on here. I think for every fish that is studiously avoiding getting hooked, I think there's probably 10 times more that accidentally don't get hooked. I don't think they're going, oh, that's a hook, and avoiding it. I just think that
they're not particularly good feeders, are they? Really?
No.
And they're designed to be feeding silt in weed, aren't they?
They haven't got hands.
They ain't got hands. They can't pick it up and test it, can they?
If you're fishing in weed and the fish are grubbing about, then as far as I'm concerned, provided your rig mechanics are good, if you get done, I think you're getting done by accident rather than on purpose. Especially over silt and weed. I mean, we've seen the amount of weed. You know,
it's solid in here, isn't it?
It's solid, You are getting done by accident by those fish. I don't think they're I don't think they're going, oh, there's a hook. I'm going to suck it from 4 inches away. I just don't think that happens. I think that's a very rare, specific occasion.
And you can present your bait as well as you know you've presented it, and if you fill it down, it feels like you've presented it well. But that could be sitting on a little tiny bit of silt or a twig or something to get in the way, couldn't it? And that's what can cock it up. But all in all, we've had like I say, we've had quite a few fish between us. It's been a great session. Weather's been great. It's actually been warm in Doncaster. Can you believe it? Of all the times I come up here, I'm normally freezing my knackers off, but it's been really comfortable in it.
And we're going to have a bit of a breakfast, because obviously we've caught a lot of carp, so we will be treating ourselves to a little breakfast on the way home.
He's going to stick his hand in his wallet. Can't believe it.
Me, a pensioner. Me, a poor pensioner.
Fantastic.
Struggling to make ends meet.
So, it'd be all good. Anyway, just like to say thanks to my good mate.
No problem, Joe. Thank you.
Been good mates for a long time. And I hadn't seen him since COVID.
Not fishing wise. We've seen each other at meetings and stuff like this. It's COVID.
But we hadn't fished together for ages. We've been meaning to get together for a long time. So it's been
not since the earth was flat.
Since the earth was flat, don't start.
Don't set them off.
So it wasn't long before the colder months were upon me, and before I knew it, I was sitting in muddy, damp, wet swims with cold fingers and cold toes trying to keep warm. But the good thing was that the fish kept coming, and I ended up with one of the best winters I've ever had. Hopefully the start of a good winter. I'm spinning around to show you the other side, because he's a pristine fish, beautiful fish. Taking on my slip D with a hair, little adjustment to the slip D, and seems to be nailing these carp left, right and centre, so I'm really pleased with that. Happy days, and get back. Unfortunately I couldn't get all the fish on video, but here's just a taster of some of the beautiful fish that I did have throughout the winter months. One I've been after, my second winter, I'm just into my second winter,
and had her on this rainy night. All right. £45 exactly. Look at that. And how about that for a winter? Hey. All right. Put it back in right now. Finally. Right, let's put you back. So as I slipped her back and watched her melt away into the darkness, I looked back, took one picture of the mud, and then slowly made my way home. Absolutely shattered, but elated at the same time.